Go ahead. Welcome to Women Atheists Unload. Today, we dive into Project 2025, a strategic plan aimed at reshaping America's government by the next presidential term. With over 350 policy experts and nearly 1,000 pages of proposed reforms, this project envisions a significant shift in how the federal government is wielding power. But what does this mean for our democracy and rights and our future? Stick around as we unpack the ambitions, the controversies, and the potential impact of Project 2025.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh**. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh**. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh**. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Hello, and welcome again to Women Atheists Unload. And thank you guys again for tuning in to yet another compelling conversation. I am joined together today with my fellow panelists and other women atheists who is ready to unload, Miss Helen Green. And we're also joined today with Miss Lynn Daren. Welcome, ladies. How are you all today?
Good, thank you. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I know that Helen is too, because we know you got opinions.
Yes, I have many opinions about
Okay.
what the far right has cooked up. Oh boy. Anybody. So Lynn, tell us a little bit about yourself and your interests. How'd you get involved with Project 2025 and why you want to talk about it and what you do in the activist community as well.
Okay, sure. How'd I end up here? So I'm a freelance editor. I've been one for a couple of years now, but before that, I practiced law for over 8 years. And I was I worked for the government, but I only worked for state government. I've never worked with or for the federal government, but they interact a lot, the two. So I'm a little bit familiar, but just to be upfront about that, I don't have much experience with federal law in practice. Mm-hmm. But my first lawyer job was actually as a legal analyst for the state legislature. So I've seen a lot of things related to this, and I've seen how the sausages are made, and it's gross. But in doing that, I've never seen anything quite like this before. So I thought, I'm still a law nerd, and I'm still subject to all the laws. So I thought it was important to be talking about this and letting people know what I've learned about this. So thank you for having me here. I'm not really outspoken otherwise. So
it's okay. We're really happy to have you here just to talk about this. And so since you brought up sausages, let's talk about the sausage of Project 2025 and how it all came together.
Yeah, so it's actually not a novel concept. This particular think tank, the Heritage Foundation, is a far right group, and they've been publishing this type of manual for a couple of years now. So they are not exclusively with one candidate or one campaign, but they have in the past been able to produce a very significant amount of policy to get it into actual enacted law or adopted policy within the government. And this one is probably the biggest that they've produced so far. Their policy manual is over 900 pages, as a lot of people here have probably heard. And if they were to get even 50% of that, even 25% of that enacted to federal government law, that would basically affect everybody.
How can how are some of the policies structured that could really affect on the federal level how we're governing our lives right now?
Oh, well, I mean, they've divided it up into many sections, and they do kind of interact with each other. I can a broad overview is kind of the best way to approach that. There's because they basically want to condense all the executive power into the president and do away with the administrative state. So, give the president exclusive control, whereas before we had regulatory agencies. They want to combine those and then eventually get rid of them and release all that power to the states. So it's not like one thing here, one thing there that they're trying to do. They're trying to kind of restructure the government in very significant ways and give more power to the president, the states, and corporations.
Gotcha. So I think that one of the things that some people are trying to say, and we're going to actually get into the Heritage Foundation kind of playing like cleanup to the dumpster fire that they actually set up. But I think it would be a good idea to kind of just go through the successes of the Heritage Foundation and why we should take the things that they say seriously. So I went ahead and pulled up, okay, come on, Heritage. They say, claim my free gift. There is no gift that you have that I want. Oh my gosh. Hold on, guys. Okay. So let me see. Let me try to go ahead and present my screen. And I'm going to share and share alike. Okay, here we go. Just let me know if you guys can see that. If you crew can go ahead and add that to the screen, thank you very much. So let's just go through here, just like a few of their timeline successes. So in 2018, the Trump administration embraces the Heritage Foundation policy recommendations. Analysis completed by the Heritage Foundation determined that 64% of the policy prescriptions the Heritage mandates for leadership series were included, in Trump's budget, implemented through a regulatory guidance or under consideration for action in accordance with the Heritage original proposals. Guys, I just want to let you know this is on their website. Number two, let's see, 2017, Congress passes historic tax reform. Check this out. Throughout the entire tax reform process, Heritage played a central role in policy conversations, offering ideas that became reality in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Heritage hosted multiple key players to discuss what tax reform means for the American people, including the President of the United States, Donald Trump, Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, the House Ways and Means Committee, and Chairman Kevin Brady, and more. That is, if everybody did not know, it's the tax cuts that Trump actually passed that gave a tax cut mostly to the 83% of the one of the rich. and wealthy, the ones who actually need to be paying taxes, not necessarily the ones down here actually working for a living. And
Cynthia,
then this,
but the corporations are people, Cynthia.
yeah, I
Corporations
know.
are people.
Yeah,
So they need a bone too.
Yeah,
Won't
sure.
somebody think of
These
the
billion-dollar
corporation?
companies need to be thrown a bone.
Right. Well, according to the Supreme Court, that exactly that they are corporation people are corporations are people too, and therefore we got Citizens United. Thanks, appreciate that. Last point I'm going to make: when he actually became president in 2016. Donald Trump turns to Heritage for policy guidance. As a candidate, Donald Trump drew his list of potential Supreme Court nominees from Heritage recommendations. Many of his policy recommendations were drawn from our Mandate for Leadership series of policy guides. After his November election, Heritage continued to provide guidance on policy and personnel, and several dozen staff worked directly with the transition team. So, yeah, guys, that is the Heritage Foundation and what they have been able to achieve so far in during Trump's administration, and now they want to take it a step further. So, Lynn, I'm going to turn it back over to you so we can get into the meat and the potatoes of the project.
Okay, thanks. And I wanted to address something because I just saw a comment a little bit ago, and I'm not sure if this was 100% serious or not, but the author of 2025 resigned, and 2025 is no more, right? Okay, so there are many authors of this project, of this 900-page manifesto or policy book, and I did see it was not the president of the Heritage Foundation, that's Kevin Roberts, but Paul Dans, who I forget what his title was, who's an underling basically, and he stepped aside. He didn't quite step down, but as part of an effort to distance themselves from their own work, or give the people the impression that we don't need to worry because they're not doing this anymore, or this isn't going to be really a policy book that they're not going to try to impose on the next administration. That's the impression they're trying to give us with this guy, Paul Dans, stepping aside, or wherever he stepped to. But no, Project 2025 is bigger than one person. It's bigger than 100 people and 100 organizations. So many people and entities have been working on getting all of this policy into place, adopted, and enacted. So, so things like that, like distancing themselves a little bit here and there, saying they don't know what it is, or ending it, or whatever. That's not true. This is still something that's ongoing. It has been ongoing for decades now. Will continue to go on for decades more. It's just something that we need to be aware of and learn more about for this election season, and for the ones in the future. Sorry, I took us in a different direction there. But,
no, it's okay. So I know that you talked about, like, there's like 3 or 4 pillars that's kind of like the policy guideline for Project 2025 and how it's structured. Can you go over those with us?
Oh, sure. Okay. So most of what I've heard refers to Project 2025 is the manual or the playbook, and it's actually a lot more than that. It's quite impressive. It's actually infrastructure. It's so there's the policy manual, which is called the Mandate for Leadership, and that's the big tome of hopes and dreams that they want to get enacted. I've heard it called a wish list, and that's pretty accurate. And but the other pillars of this project, of Project 2025, is their personnel database, their training area, and their playbook, which is the real, step by step, here's what we do, and like the part that we don't need to read because that's the how to, like actual steps. So so that would be a bit redundant to go through that, but but the personnel database is actually a very interesting portion of the project. The training is interesting as well. The training videos, I think a lot of people saw that those have been released onto YouTube recently. They're not actually like interesting to watch, in my opinion. I've only seen parts of some. There are some very interesting parts of some that I can't believe were recorded, and
yeah, as now Vice President Kamala Harris said, I can't believe they wrote that thing down.
Right. Well, they're used to people not paying attention, I think. And once people started paying attention, well, now they're they're in damage control mode.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this CBS article, this really quick, and then Helen, you can just go ahead and drop in. Much of one of the things they were saying that much of the focus on and criticism of Project 2025 involves the first pillar, the nearly 900-page policy book that lays out an overhaul of the federal government called Mandates for Leadership 2025, as you mentioned, Lynn. The conservative promise, the book builds on the Mandate for Leadership, first published in actually January 1981. I remember that year. That's when we had Mr. Reagan as our presidente. Yeah, simpler times. Not too long after that, we had Miami Vice. Moving along, the recommendations. Oh, sorry guys, I'm nostalgic for the 80s at times. But yeah, so but it was first published in January 1981, which sought to serve as a roadmap for Ronald Reagan's incoming administration. And the recommendations outlined in the sprawling plan reach every corner of the executive branch, from the executive office of the president to the Department of Homeland Security to the little-known Export-Import Bank. So this seems like it has to do a lot about not only the just like basically the structure of the executive branch, trying to consolidate the policies, well, the powers that, as you mentioned, into the executive branch of what it's able to do, but also, especially if you're looking at like the Export-Import Bank, I think that you're talking about money as well. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there are some parts that I can't really speak to personally because I don't know enough about those parts. But yeah, as far as like overall objectives that they have, oh yeah.
So let's talk. Helen, go ahead and drop in because I think that you had like some other things that you wanted to corner or discuss.
So I think what's really important is that this is a 900-page document. So there is a lot of things that are going to be very complicated for like the layman like me, to understand. But to understand the broad strokes is really, really important, especially when it comes to civil rights and the things that they're planning for the average citizen, because yes, this would give basically the presidency have the same ability, just shy of a king, and basically the Congress and the Senate is going to be shaped to just serve the president. We're not really going to see a whole lot of dissenters of people that don't like, that are on opposite sides of the party. They can basically make it so that only the loyalists are, holding power. And that's a problem because our system is designed to have checks and balances. We're designed that we elect these people. And like, there's plenty of people there that I don't like very much, but voters voted for them. So it's like, you get it. And yes, I understand there's voter shit, but I'm just being like, in general, when the system works right, we are the ones choosing. And sometimes you get a candidate you don't particularly like, but that's what the majority of people voted for. We understand this. That's not going to be a thing anymore. And also, civil rights, the things that, we thought that we were being super progressive on, I can tell you, like, we know with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, this is just a tiny thing that they got to happen. And now, so if they can do that, and we're like, having to backpedal and be like, fuck, we have to do this again. They're going to just slowly, instead of just slowly chipping away at it since they've been doing since 1981, it's just going to be a fell swoop. And that's the thing that's so terrifying.
Right. So Lynn, can you, because to allude to one of the points that Helen brought up is this thing about the appointments, government jobs that are usually held by people who are experts, but now that's not going to be the case. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, and I find that to be one of the scariest parts about the project. There's two things that go with this. There's the policy that's in the mandate for leadership, and then there's the personnel database. So there's two parts to this answer. So the first thing that they want to do is to reclassify people who have been working in the federal government for, they stay there through administration to the next administration. So they're experts. They've got experience, and they keep the government going forward no matter who is in office.
Right.
And those people, they want to reclassify as people who you can fire at will. So the next administration comes in, they wipe everyone out for a clean slate. And that way they can bring in a bunch of loyalists. And this is where one of the other pillars that I don't think gets talked about a lot comes in. It's the personnel database.
Right. The conservative LinkedIn, as they call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so that has, and I haven't been inside of it. So this is only stuff that I've heard, but what I've heard is that they have certain questions that they ask that you have to, like a questionnaire that they have to fill out to give the hiring people an idea about whether or not you will, not stand in the way of the president's agenda.
Right.
So questions about how you feel about, protecting life from conception to natural death. That is a question on there. I forget that's the first one that comes to mind. Another thing that I wanted to say about that, though, is to point out the people who are promoting the database and telling their followers to go and sign up for this database. And as you might imagine, there's been reporting about some influencers whose followers are mostly white supremacists and hate groups who are being told, go support this project, go get your name and information into this personnel database. That's who is going to be running the administrative state, basically.
Yeah, that's really messed up. This is even according to part of their website. that
Mhm.
the second pillar rather, in our online personal database, this conservative LinkedIn will launch in March, I believe March 2025, and will provide an opportunity for rock solid conservatives to place themselves in contention for roles in the next administration. This pillar will bring Mr. and Mrs. Smith to Washington. That, as my father would say, that sounds pretty white to me. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No.
yeah, but I think that one of the things that I know that that you mentioned that is important, that like when we have like these government positions in different agencies, that they are filled with people who actually know what they're doing.
Weird.
Right? Right?
That's usually who people want to hire for those jobs.
Yeah,
or keep in those jobs.
Right. One of the things that I don't want in the CDC is a bunch of people who deny the vaccines that are work, or even I remember one of the first things that previous administration did when he first got into office is that he closed down the pandemic response office. And that's why we had over 1 million people in the United States alone that died of COVID-19, because our response was so bad. One of the reasons why Ebola and SARS-CoV-2, I believe, because wasn't it an Ebola breakout under Obama, if I'm not mistaken? I believe it was.
Yeah, bird flu.
Yes. So SARS, bird flu, right? So one of the reasons why I didn't actually end up becoming, because it was an epidemic, but it didn't come to like a pandemic to then make it so like to the point where like we had to shut down everything, wear a mask, and go to Zoom, is because we actually had like an office that was available to respond to it. When you take away, our ability to respond to certain, crises that come to our shores, that's and this going ahead and just fill it like with people who are sycophants rather than people who are learned about their subjects. That puts us, as that's this regular people, citizens, residents, things of that nature, that's in big trouble, keeps us in jeopardy. So can we kind of go over the damage control?
Sure.
Yeah. So like now that we know that I know that the DNC that was in my sweet home, Chicago, don't copyright that. Don't strike me, YouTube. Was hosted the DNC for the past 4 days. I saw a lot of folks bringing out, talking about Project 2025. There was a couple skits about 2025. Kenan Thompson had the whole big old policy book and, on there as well. And so, yeah, it's a good thing that like people are talking about it more. And I think that talking about it even more is kind of helping people become aware that, oh my goodness, there's these people that's actually wanting to do these like really crazy things on the federal level, concentrating in the presidential office. But now that we know that, you talked about what was his name, Dan Dens, that stepped aside. Paul Dens, who was, I believe that he was like the leader, the head leader over the project in of itself, and so he stepped aside to, I guess, like save face or whatever. And then we have this new website that they put out called the Project 2025 Presidential Transition Project. Give me one moment. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for that. Technology, ain't it a beautiful thing? Okay. All right, crew. I got it shared if you want to go ahead and put it on the screen. All right,
Yeah.
so if you want to take it away about, what the damage control is all about, go ahead.
Yeah. This is the fun part.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
So,
I love talking about fascist shit. Love it. Anyway, let's go.
This is a good thing. This is a good thing, actually, because I've been encouraged by.
We have to know how to fix it.
Yeah, because I saw a poll in July that was disheartening. It said about 42% of people, which I think is actually kind of low, that actually had not heard about Project 2025. And that's, it was in July, so a lot more people have been talking about it. A lot more people know about it since then. I haven't seen a poll since then about it, so I don't know what any kind of numbers are now, except more people know about it. But apparently it was enough to get the people at Project 2025 to go into damage control mode, and they produced this page on their website to say, okay, well, we've been hearing all these claims, and we're going to tell you whether or not they're true or whether they're false. And here's our explanation why, if they're false. So this is a fun little page where you can go through and see what they have to say for themselves about these policies. And they put up some pretty some pretty big ones that they talk about policies that would affect a lot of people. So I went through and personally, and I didn't do all of them, but I looked through quite a few of them to see, if I could, debunk their debunking, or like if I could figure out with what they were saying was true, or like how much of it was kind of a half lie, or just they're just spinning now.
Right.
And again, this is a good thing, because they feel like they need to defend their policies or their position.
Right. I wanted to read this preamble really quickly because it's funny.
Yeah.
The left has spent millions fear-mongering about Project 2025 because they're terrified of losing their power, and they should be. Project 2025 offers a menu of solutions to the border crisis, inflation, a stagnant economy, and rampant crime. It shows how we can take on China, fix our schools, and support families. But most importantly, it dismantles the unaccountable deep state, taking power away from leftist elites and giving it back to the American people, America, and duly elected president. So right away, we're denying.
Oh my!
We're election denying. Just right away. I love it. This is great.
Just kind of. I just love we've spent millions of dollars. Listen, we're spending millions of dollars right now, everybody. Shock.
Yes.
right. On a free platform that we volunteer for, we're spending millions of dollars. But also, these motherfuckers have been spending millions and millions of dollars of getting people that they want on the Supreme Court that right now is at a record low, the approval of the Supreme Court right now. So good for you. And also, I don't you're slinging shit. I get it. But you were kind of already doing it first, except that now, as you were saying about now they're backpedaling because the more people find out about this, and then more they're like, wait, you're going to abolish the Department of Education, you're going to abolish the Environmental Protections Agency, you're going to start dismantling these very important offices, which even the average person is benefiting from. Regulations about not getting lead in the drinking water has been a good thing. So I don't even conservatives are recognizing that if we get rid of these things, it's going to be very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right now only a few doors fall off of planes each year. Only a few trains derail.
Yeah.
Right. Like, okay, so I just decided to go over this. So they said shut down the Department of Education. True. Let's see. What else did they say about education? They don't want to end free or discounted lunch. False. But if there's no Department of Education, you know, where would any of that come from? Let's see.
Yeah, and there's also they say that they don't specifically or explicitly want to end free meals for students, but they also want to make money contingent on all the schools following their rules. So if you violate, or if a school follows, you know, woke laws or you know, doesn't discriminate in certain ways, they can have that money taken away. So you won't get money for the free lunch for students.
Right. So, like, for instance, it says right here, Project 2025 mandate for leadership advocates that the Food and Nutrition Service be moved from Department of Agriculture to the Department of Health and Human Services. Mandate condemns the Biden administration decision to threaten schools that do not comply with radical transgender policies by taking away their funding from the school meals for needy students.
Yes.
Additionally, mandate supports prioritizing school meal programs for those students who are truly needy by reforming or eliminating the often misused community eligibility program, which creates an entitlement for many students regardless of family income levels. So, you know, so they're already kind of like saying here that we're going to go ahead and, like, whatever type of saying that trans people exist and LGBTQ people exist, and if they're conflating that to saying that is a radical policy, then, you know, we're just going to get rid of that so that you can still get the funding. But if you actually include it in some of your program or your lessons or anything like that, it can also endanger you to get that funding as well. Yeah. I like this. Is interesting. Condemned single mothers while promoting only traditional families. False. Project 2025's mandate for leadership suggests that the future HHS secretary replace policies of the Biden administration that promote the LGBTQ plus agenda, subsidize single mothers, disincentivize work, and penalize marriage with policies that encourage marriage, work, motherhood, fatherhood, and nuclear families, because those are the only families that matter.
I just love that they're like talking out both sides of their goddamn mouths. And it's like, you know, it's like, stop with the double speak.
Right.
Like, I know what you're saying. And it gets very frustrating. It just gets very, very frustrating when they say it's false, but it's exactly the thing that they're going to do.
Right. So, I love this one, guys. Check this one out. Use public taxpayer money for private religious schools. True. Americans are able to use taxpayer money to choose where they shop for groceries, attain housing, and obtain higher education. Religious schools often outperform public schools, and families should have the choice to send their children to these schools. Yeah, let's use taxpayer money to actually, you know, fund and indoctrinate kids. That's what we're talking about.
Well, and the scary part is that the Supreme Court is already putting things into place so that this can happen everywhere. They've already allowed this to happen in Maine and I forget what other state, but basically they're basically setting up the they're setting up the blocks.
It's happening in Florida. I live here.
Oh, this is nice. And this is kind of going back to that conservative LinkedIn. So they're saying that they eliminate unions and worker protections. That's false. However, Project 2025's mandate for leadership presents different ideas about a conservative Labor Party. It calls for combating the excesses of the deep state, bloated federal employee unions, which have ensured that federal employees keep their jobs even if they're engaged in illegal behavior or perform their jobs poorly.
Yeah, they flat out say in the manual or in the mandate for leadership, we intend to decertify federal unions. So that's, I don't know why they said false there. I think they forgot what the question was.
Right, exactly.
There are agencies that, like, because a lot of these corporations are very right-leaning, and if there's talk within, like, certain companies about people unionizing, they hire people to PR and go to and like, hey, you shouldn't really think about unionizing.
Yeah.
Like they discourage that amongst their companies. So if you have these motherfuckers like, actively trying to keep people from unionizing, and like that's what they're doing, but they're just going to make it that you just can't.
Right. Exactly.
You can't unionize on the federal level. So for example, the United States Post Office has unions, and it helps, and it benefits the workers greatly.
Correct. And it's kind of interesting that you brought up the post office, because like the post office has generally been one of the largest employer in the United States to hire minorities, especially Black folk. And the post office actually was very instrumental for helping a lot of Black people get into the middle class, purchase homes, send their children to college, things of that nature, and have benefits in order for them to grow their families. And I found it quite ironic that one of the first things that the administration did when it came into power in 2017 is start to gut the post office. And, for those who happen to know that history, that was a straight up racist move. It really was. And I mean, like, trying to combat the supply lines, try to like roll back a lot of the protections that the workers were getting, but not necessarily anymore. Putting that sycophant at the top of the union, and he's still there. I don't know why his ass ain't got fired yet, but I'm hoping that they work on it. You know what I'm saying? But but yeah, this is and since we're talking about big business, deregulate big business and the oil industry. That's mostly true. Americans need energy that is plentiful and affordable. Project 2025's mandate for leadership calls for an all of the above energy policy that will promote the development of our domestic energy supply, and for fewer burdensome regulations for all businesses. Because them regulations that actually say that, hey, let's not pollute.
Yeah.
You know what? I love living in a place where the heat index is 109.
Yeah.
Like, I love that for me. You know what? I want it to get hotter. Like,
right.
Like, it's sorry. Like, this is insanity.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Sorry, I just wanted to touch on that because I love that they said mostly true.
Yeah.
And it's because it is mostly true, but it's because they go further. They want to deregulate all the big corporation, big industries, so that and combine the regulatory bodies so that banks are going to be subject to less regulation oversight. Wow. So that people and states will be more responsible for what the banks do. They want to go back to pre-2008 type of regulation where, because that was fun, the financial crisis, that's actually what they want to go back to. They want to have banks be able to do that again.
Can we go back to this whole marriage and family thing? Because okay, so it says that, the divorce is not mentioned Project 2025's mandate for leadership. However, I find it ironic that there's still this promotion that incentivizes, encourages marriage, work, motherhood, fatherhood, and nuclear families. So that makes me say, I think you're lying. So, okay, so this portion right here, complete ban on abortions without exceptions, false. It says that the mandate for leadership calls for the government to comply with laws that prevent federal funding of abortions. It also calls for federal support for alternatives to abortion, including adoption.
Well, they should support that just across the board without any strings, like mandating the doctors to try to coerce people into trying to adoption instead of, getting the health care that they need if necessary or if they want it. And then the complete ban on abortions. This is one of those ones where they say all of everything is going to be gone forever. So and no, it's in their book. It does not say we want to ban abortions forever, but yes, that's what they're going for.
Well, I think it's interesting that, of course, the conservative judges that they recommended, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Comer Barrett, who are now sitting on the Supreme Court, and we still got and then we got Alito and Clarence Thomas on there now as well, that, they were all asked when they were going through their Senate judicial hearings if they would ban Roe, if they would overturn Roe, and all of them said no. And as soon as this orchestrated Dobbs case versus the Jackson Health Medical, I think the Jackson's Women Medical Center, was up, that's one of the first things that they end up doing, so that Roe was no longer the law or the land, which set precedent for over 50 years. And also too, we've seen like the backlash of what ended up happening as soon as Roe was overturned. Now we have over about 14 to 15 states that have a near total ban on abortion. And we have also these really terrible stories about, women not being able to get proper treatment when they were pregnant because, they ended up with a non-viable pregnancy, but doctors were not, were concerned about them being sued or their licenses being taken away if they actually did operate. Or, children who were raped and made to have babies. I know we've talked about the young girl who was raped by her mother's boyfriend, who ended up pregnant at 10 years old. She ended up having to go. She was in Ohio, and she ended up having to travel to, I want to say, Indiana before they did a ban in order for her to get her abortion. And then there was another young lady in Mississippi who was raped by a stranger, and she was forced to have a child at 13 years old because there's pretty much almost a total ban in Mississippi on abortion. The nearest place for her to be able to have it performed was in Chicago. And from where they lived, like Chicago was a 9-10 hour drive away, and her mother couldn't afford it. So till now she's forced to raise a child by from a father that she doesn't know who he is, and can you just imagine a child trying to raise a child and then answering questions about like, who is my father, how did I come to be here, things of that nature, and she has to suffer through that for the rest of her life, and knowing that basically, the overturning of Roe v. Wade with the Heritage Foundation's Supreme Court picks made this happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Lynn.
Oh, I wanted to say that these things may not be spelled out explicitly in the manual or in the mandate, but sometimes you do have to not read between the lines, but understand who is putting this forward and who is pushing for these policies.
Right.
And I think that it's important to know that, like, Kevin Roberts actually intended or had planned, his publisher had planned to release his book today. He wrote the book. It's called Dawn's Early Light, Taking Back Washington to Save America. And the foreword was written by J.D. Vance. They postponed the publication of that book, the release, until after the election. I don't know why they picked a date so far. I don't know why they did that, but apparently some people got galley copies of the book, and in it, Kevin Roberts, who is a major figure behind the Heritage Foundation and behind 2025, is in that book, he labels birth control and other forms of reproductive choice as a snake strangling the American family.
Wow.
So this is the type of thinking behind these policies, and why they're so absolute, and maybe could it gives a small insight into why they want this kind of control over women everywhere.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Like, I think that this is just another way to try to just roll back progress. Like we know that here in the United States, of course, like it's not a perfect place at all, nowhere near. But we have made some progress from its inception back in 1776 up until now. And it's almost like when I read some of the tenets of Project 2025 and listening to some of the pundits who were talking about this, it's just that it's like more that Project 2025 in of itself is just it's a policy. It's a policy wish list to basically roll back progress. Yeah, it's just, that's what it is. And being able to, for like for women not necessarily able to make decisions about their bodies, or for minorities not to, we can't talk about the real history of the United States, so we're just going to ban the books. We demonize LGBTQIA plus people and say that there's an agenda behind us, saying that they exist and we should acknowledge them and they should have civil rights, and we should also be able to provide health care for trans people, or or like people who are seeking to have a better life in the United States. We just need to get rid of them, and also, fun fact, I kind of get a little annoyed when I hear these talking points concerning about this border crisis, because for one, if Republicans really wanted to fix the border, they had a chance to do it already. There was a very stringent border bill that was written. The lead writer was a conservative Republican, and the Democrats was ready to vote on it and sign it in office, but it was killed by Trump and Mike Johnson, the current Speaker of the House. And what ended up happening was, like, a lot of those mandates were actually put into place by the Biden administration under executive order. Matter of fact, Biden has deported more people at the border than Trump did during his 4 years in office. So, and matter of fact, I was listening to a NPR podcast about the border and about migrants coming seeking asylum at the there rather, and there was this town in, I want to say, like in the southern portion of Mexico that would service migrants coming from South America. They would give them water, they would give them food, they would give them blankets, they would give them clothing, just different things like that. Because, of course, like their journey that they're doing is very hard, very difficult, especially when they were coming in on the trains. They said lately those trains been damn near empty.
Mm-hmm.
They, because because of the limits that have been placed on this on migrants being able to come to the United States. Matter of fact, I heard from another news report that the last bus in from Chicago, because of course Chicago's a sanctuary city, came in June. And another place that they were actually housing migrants was at the police stations. Those police stations are empty now. They're not even there anymore. So so I get very, very annoyed at these talking points because they're just not true. And and I feel and and I feel that, like, when you're talking about the Heritage Foundation, and also what they're trying to push with these wish lists, is that a lot of this stuff that they said was something that they were trying to implement all the way back in the 80s, if you think about it, is again to veil truth and progress. It's very annoying. Okay, you guys talk now. Said my piece.
I get
one second. I just want to go back. One
Okay.
second before we go back. I have to address this comment from Ascalon. You almost said Michael Jackson there, Cynthia. We all saw that. I dare not put Michael Jackson in the same breath as Mike Johnson, Ascalon. Never.
Oh no, perish the thought.
Right. Exactly. Never, ever would I do that.
Okay. The thing that I find so this is why they talk out both sides of their mouths, and I have a problem with this, because going back to the abortion thing, that they think that queer people existing is grooming children. Okay. All right, I guess so. We're just like, hey, just treat people kindly, child. Do that. That's grooming, everybody. But on the flip side of it, a 10-year-old gets raped, gets pregnant, and they make it hard for her to get an abortion. They make it, and this is the thing that I get so frustrated with, because they don't actually care about children. If they did, there would be actual policies and things that they would do, maybe to help with, like, I don't know, sex trafficking, like work with the organizations that are actually doing, the real work of trying to stop sexual slavery. So I'm just going to say that if this is where you're, this is, you're like, oh no, like, what? Oh, trans people bad. I need to align myself with the bigots. And you say you're doing it for, the good of the children. You don't give two shits about kids, because what you would do, you would actually do the actual hard work of doing the research, finding out why things are the way that they are, and actually doing something to help kids. This is the thing about, like, this sort of rose-colored glasses of people on the right, that they want to go back to, I don't know when America was great. I'm still waiting to find out, but I don't want to go back because, as you pointed out, Cynthia, yes, we have a lot of problems, but we have had a lot of successes. And I like, we're supposed to evolve people. We don't stay the same. So let's do that and be honest with yourselves. Like, be honest with yourself that you don't care about kids. You just want to be a fucking bigot. Just be honest. At least I can respect you more for that.
Exactly. I just want to interject to people here before you go on, Lynn, is that, please, guys, we are monetized. So, give super chats. We will read them on air while we're going on. There's other ways to support the channel as well that we will go over towards the end of the show. But yes, but like, subscribe, share the video, all that stuff down there, and yes, shoot us a thank you, a super sticker. Put in like a chat or something to that effect, saying, "Hey, thanks for talking about this. Hey, I like Helen's wings. Lynn's couch in the background is really cool. Just like things of that nature. I like that red thing on top of Cynthia's head. It looks kind of nice rolled up on there. I worked hard on this, guys. I just want to say I want to look nice for you guys. But yeah, so please, make sure that you are supporting the channel any way possible. Okay, now Lynn, I hope I didn't throw you off too much. So please say your says.
Oh no. I think that Helen was talking about, and she said it differently, but basically them using kids as props, or this is what I heard, or what came up in my mind is they're props or tools or pawns. I think useful things to further their own objectives. And not so much, actual people that need protection and education and, thinking about their future and how to make this place livable for them.
Right. Yeah. I kind of wanted to go back to, some of the things that they say was not true, but still kind of an undertone that, what people are espousing is true. So, because as you know, since, we are people who have wombs, and how we govern our wombs are very important. And, and also people who also care about our health. I think that this is important to kind of point out. This is again from the CBS News or article, "What is Project 2025?" Matter of fact, if I'm going to put it in our private chat, if one of our if our lovely crew would love to share that in the comments section, in the chat itself, so that people can read it later on for their own education. But this is what it says here on abortion and social issues. It says, in recommendations for the Department of Health and Human Services, the agenda calls for the Food and Drug Administration to reverse its 24-year approval of the widely used abortion pill mifepristone. Other proposed actions targeting medication abortion include reinstating more stringent rules for mifepristone's use, which would permit it to be taken up by several weeks into a pregnancy instead of the current 10 weeks, and requiring it to be dispensed in person instead of through the mail. So people who happen to be in states where there's a near total ban or not be able to receive this medication. They will have to travel to a different state because they can't get it in the mail. The Alliance Defending Freedom, a conservative legal group that is on the 2025 advisory board, was involved in the illegal challenge to mifepristone's 2000 approval and more recent actions from the FDA that made it easier to obtain. But the Supreme Court rejected the case brought by the group of anti-abortion rights doctors and medical associations on procedural grounds. The policy book also recommends the Department of Justice enforce the Comstead Act against providers to distribute against providers and distributors of the abortion pills. That 1873 law prohibits drugs, medicines, or instruments used in abortions from being sent through the mail. So again, we're trying to roll back progress.
Yeah, well, and sorry, but there's two things about that.
Yeah,
they of course want to go further than that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they do want to prohibit the mifepristone and any other abortion pill from being sent through the mail using the Comstock Act. And the Supreme Court did overturn. They basically allowed continuation of mifepristone being sent to people, but like they said, on procedural grounds. So we will see that case again. It is going to come up again. They may or may not effectively ban it through the Supreme Court. And on page 457 of the manifesto, or the mandate for leadership, it says their aim is to ultimately get the FDA to reverse approval of chemical abortion drugs, not just that one, all of them.
Yeah, so they just
don't know. Am I frozen? Are you guys frozen? Is it just me?
No, Cynthia's. I think Cynthia's frozen.
Okay.
Cynthia's frozen. Go ahead, Lynn.
Cynthia's frozen. We lost her.
Oh, no. That was my that was what I was getting. All of what I had to say. I'm not sure what. Oh, Cynthia, come back.
Something, Project 2025 bad. Something.
Yeah, well, yes, agreed.
I think that what, I'm just touching on this while we wait for Cynthia to come back, that this is just like a little tiny sliver of the type of stuff that they want to do, because basically, because they have a hard on for Reagan, because he was like, they're wonderful, very conservative, Christian value sort of president. And now, because he was all in support about having like a nation under God, like kind of literally, to now is that they've implemented they're trying to implement these policies to make basically a white Christian ethno state, and white conservative men are in power. If you're a white woman and you're popping out white babies, you're okay. But that's your job. Like, basically their marriage, family, umbrella of protection bullshit, to use a religious term. That's what they're looking for. And basically, and then pushing, basically marginalized groups, the queer community, people of color, people that were seeking safety here and leaving, as they came over illegally, though I don't believe any human being is illegal. They're going to be marginalized and pushed even more into the sidelines. Yeah. So we have to be really careful about the conversation, because this isn't like, look at the conservatives being terrible. They are, but these are going to have long-term consequences for, groups of people that are, just trying to hold on with the rights that they do have. And that's an everyday struggle.
Yeah. Anything, I will do anything to raise money for Skeptic Haven. Actually, my internet connection was fine.
Just you wait,
my foot all of a sudden just like touched the power button. I was like, whoops. Sorry, guys. Maybe just like my power button just needs to be like a little bit closer to away from where I sit. My bad. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're back. Well, I'm back. Well, thank you, Jesus Tales, for that $5 super chat. We really do appreciate it. Yeah, even though, like, again, my foot, my bad. So, oh my goodness. So, yeah, go ahead and continue what you guys were saying before, before I messed up.
I was just like when you accidentally took the power out. We were talking about how like this isn't just like I was telling Lynn that this isn't just conservatives being terrible. They are, but this is a long-term plan to basically turn this into a white Christian ethno state, and women are broodmares. And if you're part of any sort of, marginalized group, people of color, the queer community, you're going to be pushed to the sidelines. And the little gains that we've gotten are going to be taken away from us. And that's the thing that's so scary about this is like, oh, well, they're going to implement these certain policies. And like I was telling Lynn, like, the right has a hard on for Reagan because Reagan was the first one to be like, oh, no, this would be actually a very good thing for the United States. He just didn't live, he just got Alzheimer's, wishy brain, to get, those, what they had in mind in sooner. But they've been planning this forever and a day. So I'm just very surprised. Maybe it's because I spent too much time thinking about politics that, like I said, we're talking about this now. And I said this before that I wish that we were talking about this a year ago. It said of like 3 months to the election. So it's getting a little nerve-wracking, people.
Yeah.
Please go vote.
They're getting emboldened to say more and more of what they were thinking before, but actually like now using it to draw people in and say, hey, it's cool to, say this now. We can actually openly try to get this.
Exactly. Just gonna have another super chat from the Unlucky Legume. I like beans too. Thank you all for helping get the word out about this insidious agenda. It's important that people know what's at stake here, and your efforts are greatly appreciated. Legume for your $10, and thank you for your wonderful statement. We appreciate it very, very much. Yeah, I think that this is. It's important to discuss this. I mean, I'm glad that we have more media that is actually picking up this subject, right? I know that, like, other shows that we are on that, Helen and I even do together, we have been talking about Project 2025 for a while now. And it is on the radar for other, organizations who are doing work in secular activism. Shout out to the Freedom from Religion Foundation. That's really like going to places and actually taking it to the courts in order for, some of the freedoms that we actually have fought long and hard for to be in place, and for them not to be eroded by this, like, basically a Christo-fascist agenda, because that's what Project 2025 is. I think about this like outline. It's kind of interesting, like even like when you talk about the book banning, which was very much so part and parcel of like the Nazi regime back in the 30s and 40s, that you're bringing more of those things here into the United States by taking, books out of libraries. They can't. They're not even necessarily like in the classroom curricula, and then saying, "Oh, well, they promote." They promote reverse racism, or they promote pornography, because you're talking about the LGBTQIA experience, or anything like that that's like against whatever type of things that the conservatives have like put into their head. And but in the same time want to use the words freedom in their language. And I'm just like, but you don't promote freedom. You don't promote people being able to make decisions for themselves. You talk about freedom and you talk about First Amendment rights, but it's with a caveat. And so people who happen to be on the other side, who don't necessarily think like you, all of a sudden are going to be subjected to your whim, because you think that this people who have like a moniker of progressive thinking is going to try to groom kids and put them into all types of like silly things. I don't know. I just see like this whole thing just being a way to control people and just to vie for power.
Well,
So,
and
and
I think
enrich corporations and people with money. I'm sorry, Helen.
Yeah.
No, I know it's one of those things that's what's so disgusting about it. Like, using kids as props, punching down, calling people that have really no power, a threat to American democracy, and the family union and stuff like that. Because if queer people have rights, people are going to stop having babies. That's how it's going to work. Everybody, we're not going to have families anymore if queer people have rights. It's just so dumb because it has nothing to do with that. They want, again, a white ethno-Christian state. They want a bunch of white people. That's why, conspiracy theories talk about eugenics and the white replacement theory and all this fear mongering, and that we're not going to know what gender is anymore, and because if I'm attracted to someone and they happen to have a penis, am I gay? I don't know. Brain broken. And this is just like, because it's a very simplistic way of thinking when you realize how everything is connected, from, your average person to the way that the government runs, how we're affected by policy in day-to-day lives that we don't always feel it. For a lot of people, it's it's abstract, and well, if, the government just did this, I wouldn't feel so scared. I would, maybe someone can take control, because, and this is why it goes back to religious thinking, is that if somebody's in control, then I don't have to take responsibility about how complicated everything is, and that everything's not going to be given to you, and that you do actually have to do work to understand how these things and listen to experts. I think that for a lot of people, just falling in line with this, it makes it easier, and that's how fascism happens, unfortunately. And if you don't start questioning, going, well, like, why do the Republicans want to do this? If you're not asking yourself those questions, like, why do they want to get rid of the Department of Education? Think about that for a minute. That's what people need to do. They have to take the responsibility and actually think it through. Like, why does my government want to implement Project 2025? Why is this happening?
It's kind of interesting too. And then Lynn, I want you to chime in on the recent interview that Elon Musk had with Donald Trump on the X platform. Donald Trump said that he did want to get rid of the Department of Education, and he wanted to give it back to the states.
Mhm.
However, some states are not going to fare well.
Right. Right. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I'm just like, so why would you want to do that then, Donnie? Donnie P?
Openly admitting. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't, like, I believe, because, like, we talked recently about, like, public school system in the United States, and one of the basic reasons why you may have, like, some schools do better than the others is because we don't have equal resourcing when it comes to public schools in the United States.
Yeah.
Very much so, what your zip code is would determine what type of resources, like, your public school will get.
Yes.
And of course, like, places where it's a lower socioeconomic neighborhood has usually the more worst performing schools. Places where the socioeconomic stature is higher, they have better schools as far as, like, performing schools.
Mhm.
So the issue is not necessarily, let's then shift money to school choice and including, like, religious schools. Because my whole thing is, like, if you have the social economic stature in order for you to be able to send your kids to a private school, go ahead and do it. But that should not necessarily take away the ability for kids who happen to not have that particular status to also get a good education. And what basically needs to happen is that the school system needs to be equally sourced, and the and things that go into the schools that are higher performing needs to go to schools that are lower performing. Better books, not book banning, proper curricula. Let's not roll back, certain things that kids should be learning. I was devastated when my niece told me that they don't have books in schools. I was like, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
books
we don't use,
and chalk and other things that teachers need to teach that teachers have sometimes spent their own money on because the schools don't have money for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that schools need to be looked at based on what resources they have, and there needs to be an equity there, resources per student, rather than just looking at how many students there are and then letting the states or the districts, kind of fund themselves.
Yeah.
Because when you take students out of certain schools and send them to the ones with more resources, you're just taking the resources away from the ones that need more.
Right.
And giving it to the ones that need it less.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily saying that you got to bust kids. Like, no, you just need to fix the school that's within their neighborhood.
Right.
And fix the housing situation in your neighborhood, and make sure that the people who are parenting their kids actually have enough money to actually, like, live and feed their kids, normal shit. That's what, what I'm saying? Like, and
you mean everybody should have shelter and food and, like, a paying job? Oh my God, Cynthia, stop.
I saw something.
You radical, you. Like, everybody has a living wage. And also, too, I don't, like, just on the education front, like, the schools also perform better when they have good support set. They have, like, special ed educators and counselors and therapists working in the schools to make sure, and, like, a nurse, because, like, those things are really, really important. Not just the teachers and not just the administrative staff, but the support networks that are part of the schools. So this way, like, my son, like, he was on the spectrum. He's on the spectrum, and when he was a child, he got special education preschool that was paid for by my state. Oh, I miss those days. Like, paid by my my taxes, and he was able to thrive. And it was because there were people that were trained teachers dealing with kids with special needs, young children. I am 100% thankful for it. And it was because we were putting the taxpayer money into that education. So though I'm, and I recognize this, I live in a very white county, or I would like to see that in every school district in the United States, so no kid is falling through the cracks.
Yeah, and I totally agree, but
where the money is. Yeah.
I'm a childless cat lady, and I still want all the kids to have an education. I still want them to all have the same opportunities and the same resources and the same quality of education.
Well,
Lynn, are you sociopathic because you don't have babies?
I might be. Yeah.
Well, I was a childless cat lady all the way up until 2021 when circumstances made me not a childless cat lady any longer. The cat is still here, but she does her own thing. But I digress. But I think of like there was a new youth center that was built out of an old school 2 blocks away from where I live, and that's where my kid goes now for daycare and Head Start and stuff like that. And one of the first things that they did was do like aptitude testing, just to kind of see like, does he fall on the spectrum, where is his language skills at, just so like if we do need to attach him to services now, that they're in place, right, so that he can be able to actually thrive while he's in school. Now he ended up actually going through them, and they said, well, no, he's fine. He's just very hyper. I said, yeah, it's called, he's 3. But but regardless of that, I'm grateful that they had those services in place. Now, where I live, even though it's predominantly African American, this is one of the neighborhoods that ended up kind of like becoming one of those like middle class-ish neighborhoods, I would say like in the late 60s, early 70s, after the Fair Housing Act of 1968 was signed into law. Go figure. So, yay, socialism.
Weird.
Right.
Socialism, yeah. Right.
Yeah. So like, of course, like we're going to like, try to remove some inequities when it comes to being able to have access to housing, and also for African Americans to take advantage of for federal housing, for FHA loans as well. And so, but that's socialism, and how dare you? So, so
people getting equal access to housing, still have to pay the money for it, but at least it's equal.
Kind of.
That money should be going to corporations, just
right, because they're people too.
I know, right?
Yeah,
because they're people.
Right. So guys,
Target is a person.
Right. Right. Well, guys, we've been on for some time now, even with my foot gaff. But I wanted to have Lynn do her wrapping for us, and then we'll do the things before we get out of here. So, take it away, Lynn.
Thanks. Well, my wrapping. I am not usually a talker. I don't know if you can tell, but I don't talk a lot. I don't speak publicly, things like that. But this was something that the more I learned about it, the more I thought I need to get my small voice out there. Maybe that'll make a difference somehow. I try to do things that I can do, like I watch the videos, I like the streams when I see them. I subscribe to the channels that talk about them. I say hi in the chat. I comment on them, just to get engagement about this going, just to be, to put my drop in that bucket for this, because it's that important. And so I appreciate everybody who showed up and stayed. And that's about all I got on this.
Well, Lynn, I know that I think it's safe to say that us as Skeptic Haven really thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts and then also your knowledge about this very important topic. It's timely, even though yes, we loved having you here, Lynn. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you,
and we would
Absolutely.
say. And your voice is not tiny, and you are welcome to come back. I think it's safe to say for me to say, you're welcome to come back. and
We'll allow it. You can come back.
We'll allow it. It's cool. Yes, and Ascalon is always ready to stay up to talk about Michael Jackson. Me too. Yes, that is correct. But we're not talking about Michael Jackson. We're talking about Project 2025. But
let's talk about Michael Jackson.
Well, in a minute there, I might moonwalk across my on the stream. Who knows? Stick around, people. No. But no, this is an important topic, and also to thank you, Helen, for being on. It's been a minute since we've been on a thing together.
I know, girl. I know. I miss you.
I miss you too.
I knew who else am I going to share my opinions with?
Right. Right, exactly. I know from way back that Helen Green got opinions. Okay.
Yes, I got a lot of opinions.
A lot of opinions, and we also want to thank our audience for actually, staying, talking with us, sharing things in the chat. We also want to thank our super chats that we received today. Thank you so much for all of your support, guys. It's
we
been
like money.
fun. We do because it helps us actually. Yeah, we like capital. Not to the point where we're like greedy corporate greedy corporatists. We're not, but we also like to thank everybody who has donated to the channel as well. There's different things that you guys can do. We do have a Patreon, so if you go to www.patreon.com/skeptichaven, you too can give to the channel and support us in the platform and keeping things going. All those people that's down there are patrons of the show, and we're going to read them to you. Thank you, Paul Camish, Karen Butcher, Puck, Helen Green, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Eric Ozols, Ryan, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman, Sunny Shell, Aaron Colson, and Phil Calderon. And also, too, we are looking for people to assist us as well. Oh, yeah, and don't forget to check out our other shows. Yes, volunteers, yes. We need volunteers for producing bookings and call screening. So if you're interested, please contact us at Studervant@gmail.com. And also, don't forget to check out our other shows on Skeptic Haven. Mondays is the Black Freethinkers. Tuesdays, Secular Soapbox. Thursdays is the Sunny Spot. Saturdays are the Global Atheists and us at Women Atheists Unload. And Let's Talk on Sunday, which is a call-in show. So again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Yeah, that thing right there. Yeah. Share the video. Keep us relevant, because we're always going to be talking about very important things that are relevant to your lives. And we're going to keep it classy. We're going to keep it sassy, and we're going to keep it secular. Yes. So again, thank you guys. This is
the secular dance.
Yeah, this is the secular dance. If you didn't know, everybody do the secular dance. Secular. Oh gosh, yes. But everybody, yes, exactly. Yes, secular. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next time. Until then, have yourself a great Saturday.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Thank you.